Hello, thank you for tuning in. On this episode today, we're going to cover cloud services. Now, cloud services have been around for a while and companies are using them for remote working basically and for storage of data on the clouds. After the lockdowns, we're going to have to go out to the world again and work. But in our interactions, some habits will change and we're going to be compelled to work from home or to work remotely. So this episode will help you figure out a little bit what are the first steps you have to consider before implementing any cloud services. Our next guest is a specialist in Microsoft Cloud Services deploying. Hope you enjoy it. All right, thanks for joining us today. It's a big privilege for me to receive one of my oldest friends. I mean, that's one of the people that I met when I first emigrated to France back in 2001. Hassan is specialized in Microsoft Cloud products. Basically, anything you need to know about Microsoft Cloud is Hassan is the guy to go to. So welcome, Hassan, to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Toufic. Yeah. Well, I'm really honored to be part of this series. And of course, as you said, we've known each other for quite some time. We've been together in the business school back in the early 2000s, and then we've lived also in the same city.
Yeah.
In which I'm still living now. Well, I came back.
Ah, you came back. Nice.
Yeah. Basically, I've had, as I might say, different lives.
Yeah.
I've lived as I was a student, and then got in the Microsoft products back in 2010.
Yeah.
I also owned the bar for 5 years.
I remember.
Shareholder in a bar.
I remember. Do you still own it, by the way? Do you still own some shares, or did you exit?
No, I sold that when I went to work in Geneva.
All right. Okay.
Back in 2014. So at some point, I learned everything that I had to learn, and of course, the company grew.
Yeah.
Everything was plummeting. So everything was really good, and I felt like I didn't have anything to learn anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a bit challenged guy. So as long as it's difficult and things are not working right, I can be there. Once everything is working fine.
Don't you feel sometimes? Don't you feel? I'm actually a little bit the same. Don't you feel sometimes that we auto-sabotage ourselves in order to?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you get to a point where everything is okay, and then you sabotage it, and then you go back from something else. You know.
We need to have problems to solve them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no problem, no solution.
Yeah.
So So then I created my own company 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I resigned from my work back in Switzerland, and then since then I actually signed many contracts with some companies.
Okay.
As you said before, deploying. So my job is basically I'm a project manager and a business consultant in the deployment of systems that are helping companies grow, understand more their business, the competition, the market, and be able to really thrive into their success. Okay. I'll explain basically what.
We're gonna talk about this. Stay tuned, guys, because we're gonna talk about how companies can digitalize and emigrate from local to cloud, and how you can optimize your operations, optimize your sales, optimize your different areas in the company. Hassan, the question that we're always asking: COVID-19. How did it affect you?
Well, COVID-19 is the topic of 2020.
Yeah.
Basically, it has changed a lot the way people are behaving, especially in the work areas. And I will give different examples. But for me, for example, what happened is, well, I'm not really impacted because basically I can work remotely.
Okay.
I'm in that kind of business in which you can start working from in the morning from home. We have the tools to access such as Zoom, such as Teams, and we can connect with the people, train people from afar. So it's not really affecting in my line of business. But of course, especially as you might know in France, the culture is not widely open in the remote working.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
If you're not here, we feel like you're cheating the company.
Most managers, unless you're in their office and they can see you physically, they think that you're not working actually. So, but I think that will change.
That will change, and that has started changing also last year with the strikes.
Yep.
And what they call the yellow jackets movement.
The yellow vests. Yeah.
Yes, and since people could not go to work, they started at least working remotely from home, going home office. So basically that mindset has started changing last year, and it will continue changing with the COVID-19. Now, what I see also is that a lot of companies are adapting. Okay. Especially local businesses. Okay. Shops and so on. Okay. So what happened, for example, in Fontainebleau, where I'm living right now, the city has made available a service, a local service to deliver goods. Ah, nice. From shops to the people. Okay. Mostly people that cannot go out, or that might be
more vulnerable to the.
Exactly. To the virus, and a lot of thanks to that, a lot of businesses kept opening their doors and then just delivering and goods, and keep continuing to keep a certain money coming.
Okay, so income. They focused on income for those companies.
Exactly. Instead of just closing, because they also still have some costs going. Because they have rent and so on. Cost of course. Salaries and so. So yeah, basically it has changed the way locally, but even globally, now we see also that things are less polluted. I mean, the nature has taken over also its rights. People are more and more inclined to I think they will work more from home. Yeah. They can work differently. They need to adapt anyway. Companies need to adapt their.
You're touching on a very, very key point. I from previous episodes, even I was recording with some other people on the show. I think this is the death of 9 to 5, or at least the start of the death of the 9 to 5.
Exactly.
I think companies. I think companies. The 9 to 5 was born back in the 40s, 50s, 30s, 20s, basically when companies needed to automate and scale production, and so they needed, for example, 10 people to work at the same time on one task, so that this task can be multiplied. I think now with cloud services, and what's happening in the world, I think people will shift from a 9 to 5 to, for example, you got reasonably 16 hours a day, right? If you sleep 8, right? Yeah. You sleep 8 hours, you've got 16 hours. And how do you organize? How do you go by organizing? So it could be you go to work at 7, like in some countries, Spain, they go very early to work, right? Yeah. And then they pause the day at the middle of the day until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they go back to their work, and then they stay until 8 o'clock in the evening. But also you have other countries where they do things differently. So I think this 9 to 5 thing will really get a hit, and managers on top levels are starting to realize that, basically that if I cannot trust you to work from home, why would I trust you to work from your desk anyway?
Exactly. And the thing is that you can always set objectives and goals. Basically, when work is not done, the manager knows that it's not done.
It's so not. You cannot fool anybody.
Exactly. It doesn't need. I don't need you to be right in front of me to know that you're working or not.
Yeah. At the end of the week, there is a task that was supposed to get delivered. If I didn't get my presentation on Thursday, it means that starting Monday you didn't work. That's what it means. So 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, and then we adjust the management. Hassan, quick question regarding cloud services. So if I follow, for example, all the companies, I had a bakery. You mentioned your bar, but at some point I was a partner with my family in a bakery, right? And back then we didn't have it existed, but we didn't have the knowledge or the awareness, I would say, to automate. I mean, now looking back, I would have made much more money if I automated, or if I listened, right? Or but we were like operation. Unfortunately, until now, some companies are still into operation, and are not grasping the opportunity. And I think this crisis has just speed up the disappearance of a lot of things that we thought were true, but now are challenged. So what can you say to the common person that doesn't know really how a cloud service functions, how Microsoft Cloud services function? What can you say, for example, from the standpoint of a bakery, or a standpoint of a small business, or a small accounting office, or whatever example you want to take? What are the things that to simplify, and why do you think people should go through that?
That's a very good question, and of course, what happened, and especially I've been working in this business for 12 years now.
No.
So I know everything that's related to services, to a management, to reporting, to a tool that can help companies really thrive and understand how the business should work. And basically, back in 2010, it was only small, medium, but more big companies that were handling that, and they had in mind that we need to change our system, because every 5 years or every 10 years we need to change the system, the ERP system, so the software that helps the companies handle their business, so sales, purchase, financial management, their services, the production, even project management as a whole, in which you can understand your costs and check with the sales that you're making, and better understand your margin, how the market is flowing, what's the trend of your customers, and basically it was really not available, what I would say available for everybody, because the cost is really
absolutely. I remember once you came in and you made a presentation, or somebody from your previous company make a presentation, and it was like some kind of amount, like that was a big investment at that time. I'm sure nowadays there are more cost-effective solutions for smaller businesses, I think. So
and this is what Microsoft and other big companies did by turning into the cloud. Okay. So by changing the aspect of an on-premise software that you come and install in a company, and basically the deployments now are taking just a few hours in terms of installation, and in terms of how you set up the system. It's really has become really fast, and also effective, because now you have methods, you have tools, you have things to automate your deployment, and also by using what we call a SaaS, a software as a service. So basically, that's the software that's installed in the cloud. And basically, in a push of a button, you deploy the whole thing for a company, no matter the sector, and no matter how big it is. Okay, so go ahead. Develop on the example. Yeah, as an example, now Microsoft has deployed what they call Business Central, which is previously what was the ERP Navision, or NAV, and I had in mind, and it's fairly easy to deploy. But as you said, for different small companies, either they don't have the mindset to say, okay, we need to change from the paper or from the Excel sheets. We need to change our systems in order to be more effective. I am so glad you're saying that. On a previous talk, I had a heated debate with somebody telling him, listen, you can have the best software, the best equipment. If you cannot lay down your process and your objectives and your targets on a piece of paper, it's useless. Can you confirm that? And I'm as an example, and I will come back to how we can deploy that in a more industrialized way. Because I've thought about that, and especially bringing those kind of services and softwares to small companies that sometimes don't know it exists, or are too afraid of what the cost was in the previous past, and they had like a really old thinking of that the cost of deploying will be around between 50,000 to 100,000 euros, which is not true now.
Which is not true now.
For 10 to 15, maybe it's an investment, of course.
Yeah.
But for 10 to 15,000, you can have something that's working for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can be deployed quite easy.
Yeah.
And that can be and basically
even you can start gradually. Before you had to implement the whole system to be able to benefit from the full power. Now you can basically start gradually. If you have 5 employees, the cost for you will be less than if you have 20 employees. If you have 20 employees, the cost will be less than 50. And then, so basically the more you grow, the more you're able to adapt, I think. So that's
and also in terms of licensing, the big software companies understood that instead of one of their customers to be paying a lot in the beginning or every year for a license, they made it as a subscription. So every month, so now they cut the cost, saying, okay, for one user, especially as they did for Office 365 in the case of Microsoft. For one user, you need to pay this for a month for this type of license. And basically a manager that sees, okay, now I can see like renting.
Exactly.
I put my information. I basically everything is out of the box.
Yeah. If I have, if I may, absolutely. If I may make a comparison, it's like when you rent an office. You rent an office, you're 5, so the rent is proportionate to the 5 people. But now that you're going to recruit and you're going to become 20 or 50, you have to move to a bigger office. So you're going to make the investment of moving to a bigger office. I think that's what you're touching on. I think that's the investment is gradual to the growth of your company.
And of course, and the thing is also a lot of companies are not equipped for the 21st century challenges. As you said, companies need now to innovate, to train their people, to be more cost effective, to understand how the market works. So without a proper tool, I mean, they cannot be up to the challenge. And basically what will happen, unfortunately, so as we were saying, and we can come back just quickly to the COVID impact. What we were saying is that basically, I think COVID is a good thing, aside from the deaths and the people that are suffering. But it's a good thing because it will reshape the way companies think. And unfortunately, for those that were not prepared enough and that didn't have the tools, the proper tools to face this difficulty, even though nobody knew that it would basically happen this year. But the ones that were not prepared are the ones that will die. That will basically
when everything is said and done, no disrespect to those who lost families or whatever, or are actually suffering from it, but when everything's said and done, this opportunity of being able to rebound after COVID-19 and to be able to reshape, we might not get in the future with other pandemics. I mean, we could have ended up with a worse pandemic that would have a death rate of 1/3 or 1/2, right? And we wouldn't live to the challenge, and we will rise up to the challenge. So I think, as you said, COVID-19 is an opportunity for companies to diagnose what are the tools and basically behaviors and mindset to have for the future. Hassan, but what is the relationship, as you see it, between companies understanding software, what we call hard skills today, and understanding what we call soft skills, which are proving day by day not to be that soft, because they're pretty damn necessary, as the understanding of communication, the understanding of collaboration between people, the understanding of dynamics of teams, the understanding of dynamics of people. So how can you touch on the relationship between deploying a software and the importance of developing in parallel a solid company culture?
That's a very good question, and I've been working and each time I deploy for a company a system, I always ask myself this question, especially in the fact that the more you're organized, in terms of structure, in terms of departments, in terms of putting the right people in the right place, training them, making sure that they're happy in the way they work, and they can also provide you with their difficulties, their threats inside the company, how they see things going, because it's just by organizing that. So that's aside from the software, and then the software will bring back a lot more. But if a company is well formed, structured, and if the people are able to make it grow, so to understand what they are doing, what they need to be doing, and how they should be doing it, especially now.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the way companies worked 40 years ago, or even now 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
It's irrelevant now. It's irrelevant. Yes. Yeah.
And what happens is that it has also an impact in the cost of deployment of a system.
Okay.
What I've seen is the less organized the company is, the more expensive the deployment will be.
Nice. Okay. So that's okay. So can you repeat that? Can you repeat that to the audience? So the less organized the company is, the
most expensive, the most expensive will be the deployment of your system, because at some point you need to understand that if you're organized, everything is clean. It's basically like a house. Everything is clean. You find your things. Everything is fine. If it's not organized, we'll be doing more workshops. We'll be trying to organize
so you'll multiply the problem instead of multiplying solutions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it happens a lot. I'm working for a customer currently, and not only actually they took an ERP system to define their own process. So they didn't have any. So they're just starting their business.
Yeah.
In the food industry, and basically they didn't have any processes, and they took the ERP system to shape their processes.
Okay.
And basically they had a lot of work, a lot of workshops, and they're getting in there. But I've seen also some other companies in which basically you can take the best solutions, the best softwares in the world. If the people are not well behaved, for example, if they're not well trained, if they're not happy in the way they work, and they don't understand why they need to be using this system instead of another, why they need to think the way they should be thinking right now.
So there's a transition to be made.
Yeah.
So there's a transition to be made by training people first on the processes and the importance before deploying the right tools in their hands.
Exactly. And then the tool will only help more, of course, and then you'll be more effective and more competitive in your area, and you'll gain more turnover and so on. So basically, you can grow your company if you're organized. These are the two main things to be that are most important, I think, for a company. The organization first, because we cannot work without people. So HR and the system. The system. And now we talk about more a global system strategy. This is why we have one of the most important position in a company is now the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, or the CIO, Chief Information Officer. And basically those are two functions that are quite important for an organization, because it deals with system. But if the organization is well managed and the people are in their right mindset in terms of evolution, in terms of how they see their company in a few years, and if they can bring the company in this area or status of being more competitive and more cost effective, I think basically you can deploy a system with your eyes closed. And then you know that the system that you're deploying is gonna help. Either it is a software, an ERP system, either it is a reporting tool, either it is a web shop or a website, any kind of tools. And you can also interface with different things that will probably the different softwares that will probably communicate together.
Yep.
We talk more and more about EDI services.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
exchange of data between these are machines. These are machines or systems or servers that are discussing with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without anybody having to do anything. And of course, it's less time consuming for people, so they can also provide some more time to be thinking about the challenges of their company, how they might be able to be more competitive, so basically these humans and systems should be working together now. It's not a threat, but if one is not working, the other will not be working as well.
I understand. So indeed, there's a preparation phase before signing up to any kind of deployment of software. And most companies,
exactly.
I've worked with business managers that didn't understand the importance of tools, and I said, listen, if you give a fast car to somebody that doesn't know how to drive, he's just gonna get through the wall faster.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it is. He's just gonna reach the wall faster. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what he's gonna do.
So he wouldn't know why he crashed.
And he wouldn't know why he crashed. So it's very important for business managers that are already on the cloud, to audit maybe their way of doing business right now and those who haven't even considered cloud yet, before considering that, to lay down their process and to lay down their organization of their company, and even hire like a professional consultant maybe, or somebody in the business to say, listen, I need to work out my process before I know which tools to use, and as you said earlier, it's something, maybe it's either it's gonna cost them less, actually, because they might end up paying for less than what they need, and then this way they could, the mindset of cost is very, very different and varies with a lot of people. I cannot stress more on that. There's price and cost, and price is the $9.99, but cost is, if I don't do it, what would it cost?
Yes.
Right.
What will cost? Basically, a lot of companies also see their sales go down, and without even knowing, and they usually blame the situation, they blame the state, they blame a lot of things, instead of just saying, okay, I should have done that, I should have thought about something, because everybody around me is changing the way they work. And why are they getting more profits than me, for example?
I used to have this with exhibitions. Oh, we're not going to exhibitions because it's too much money for nothing. We're not gonna profit from it anyway, right? And then you miss out on one season because your competitors went to the exhibition and then they killed it, right?
Yeah.
And you have the other type. You have the other type of clients is no. I'll go to the exhibition. I know everything about the exhibitions industry, and I don't need help, and I don't need to work out my strategy or whatever. Well, now they're about to find out what is a year like without exhibitions in terms of sales. Yeah. And I think everybody's going to be really surprised.
That's basically what you're saying is very true, because usually what I see also in deploying is managers that are saying, okay, but it will cost me this, but when can I see some profits out of that? And it always takes time. Of course, that's what we call an investment. If you go to an exhibit, for example, you're there, people are seeing you, even though you're not taking much profit from it right away. It will be, we saw that guy, or we saw that person, or we saw that company, and we now maybe next year we now want to work with you. But if you're not there, then they will say you're not. Basically, nobody's is
absolutely. Yeah, I give the example to my clients. I say, when I get the question of what is the return of investment of doing this or doing that, I'm like, what's the return of investment of your mother? You can't tell me. You can't tell me at what point in history your mom sat you down and told you this one thing that made you who you are today. It's years and years and years and years of preparation, and you see what I mean? And so how do you measure this? You just have to do it, and then you'll be able to collect some data, and the data will speak for itself. So engagement can be measured, anything you can measure, you can improve, basically. And so unless you have the strategy of measuring and accepting what you, because a lot of business owners, I don't know if you deal with this. I get hired sometimes for consultancy in companies and like auditing or training a team of salespeople. And then the conclusion is to the CEO, you have to fire your sales manager. You have to fire you have to fire their manager. They're a bunch of very nice people and they're very effective team. Their problem is their manager, for example, right? And so I think some companies also are afraid of what they will find out. You know, it's like it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, if I do an audit on my company, on my processes, maybe I will not be very satisfied with this, but that's part of improvement. So let's join forces and encourage companies to do it. I think companies should do it. Look in the mirror, look at your processes, accept your reality and do it.
It's not really an easy process. It's never easy because you're changing. Basically, you're like, well, I always take this image of me being the project manager or the business consultant and bringing a virus into the company.
Absolutely.
And the people are antibodies because they always say, okay, but we used to do this way. Yeah, but with this new system, you won't do it this way. You will do it this way, the right way it needs to be done. Because look at where you are now with the way you were working before. And you always find some tension into workshops. People do not want to change. It's always difficult. But at some point, 6 months after going live and deploying, and you can see they have completely changed. They changed their mindset. They don't even need you anymore, which is good. They start thinking also together into solutions to make things evolve, their system evolve the way they, so basically it's a win-win situation, but you never see it at the point when I deploy. It's always difficult because people are resisting the change. And they will only see the actual difference a year from, or a year or 2 years from the deployment. Which is,
I think, and I think that's one of the challenges. I think that's one of the challenges of the digital society. I think the digital society have put us in a position where we don't know how to build relationships anymore. Yep. Right? You swipe right and left for Tinder. You talk to a person like 20-year-olds today, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds today. Like even, and I'm not talking like I'm 37. I'm going to turn out 37, by the way. And so, this notion of communication and this notion of being able to solve problems by communicating to each other is something that people are not very comfortable with. And I think digital society has only accelerated our inability to be able to engage in conversation and develop meaningful relationships at work. And I think that's critical for the implementation of any cloud service or any process in a company or any new software, because the first thing you need is for people to believe in it. Right?
To believe in it, to support it, to be there, to also to make it grow. Because at some point you will deploy it, and if the system does not change, if the people do not see something, and especially with the some of the tools, Microsoft changing or making things evolve is fairly easy. It costs a little bit, but basically at least it's tailored. It's tailored to the way you work. It's tailored to your business sector. It's tailored with the latest technologies, AI, for example, that can or reporting that can help you really understand your business. So basically, of course, you need people to, and it's not, you cannot avoid it.
No.
You cannot avoid digital transformation. It's something that's quite inevitable. It's really something that every company should be going through at some point in their life, because otherwise, I think it's not the way. Other companies have more tools and more. It's basically like everybody is running, but like 100 miles away from you. And if you want to catch up, of course, you need to have the same shoes.
If you want to compete, you have to be able. It's not about the ego anymore, you know.
No.
Like I always tell business managers, listen, you've hired me, so that's one of the signs that you didn't figure everything out by yourself, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. right? So if I'm here with you and you agreed to pay, it means that there is some value that I can bring to you and to your business and to your team. So let's exchange on what do you know about your team, and let me tell you what I know about other teams, so that we can put this together and design something for your team.
Yeah, let's stop wasting time and start working effectively.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hassan, what can you say about, how do you see the next because I think this crisis just didn't inform us about a lot of things. We already knew all those things. We already knew about cloud services. We already knew about the environment. We already knew about the development of drones. We already knew those things. It's just that this crisis has forced on us to think about those things within a range of 18 months instead of thinking about them with a range of 10 years.
Yeah.
So what do you see is going to happen in those next 12 to 18 months for small businesses, big businesses? How do you forecast the evolution regarding the cloud service?
Well, I think a lot of companies have actually they had in mind to deploy a new system, for example, or to change the way they work this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because, or thanks to, never mind, but the current situation,
yeah.
There are some budgets that will not be used for those investments.
Yeah.
And of course, I think maybe it will replace also the loss that those companies had or that they're currently having. But basically, it will take some time before some time before they raise their head and come back from the COVID and what the impact of the COVID has done on those companies.
So you think implementing cloud services will be a little bit slow in the beginning?
I think not only slow, everything is stopped. So everything that's related to deployment, especially in the in Europe or internationally, everything is now frozen.
On hold. Okay.
Yeah. Especially the thing is, what we need to know, what you need to know is that basically a company starts on the first. Usually, a company starts on the first. The fiscal year starts on the 1st of January and it ends in the 31st of December.
Yeah.
Which means that currently now the companies are shaping their system for next year.
Yep.
So workshops are being done, studies are being done, developments are being prepared. All those kind of things, they should be done right now.
Yeah.
So at some point, because then the company, the start of the fiscal year, you have always the closing of the previous year. You have always also
I see.
Manage. So this is the time that has been wasted at some point because we didn't. Companies were closed, or people were working remotely, or consultants, or maybe IT companies were not working the way they should be working at this moment. Will take some time to cover. To recover from that. Basically, either it is a company, a customer of an IT company, or an IT company itself to deploy or to manage. Of course, they adapted the way they work. But in order to I think we are seeing more projects next year than this year.
Okay. I think it's normal because a lot of companies are focusing now on saving jobs and on cash liquidity. Is important for companies right now, and solvency is also another issue. And I think companies are basically looking for liquidity and trying to avoid becoming not solvent, because there are two problems that companies usually face. It's either liquidity, which means that, just for people who are watching, liquidity, which means that companies don't have the money yet, but they have a promise of business, and so liquidity can actually be coming up soon. But now that sales has stopped, so liquidity is coming off the table. So they're relying on a lot of help and a lot of their own balance sheets. But then you're going to see holes in those balance sheets because you might end up being not solvent, because if you don't make income and you cannot pay your dues and your invoices, then you face you've transited from liquidity problems to actually solvency problems, which is something difficult.
The thing is, what I would advise, basically any company that's now closed or for which time is frozen in terms of sales or in terms of, is to think about their organization. Now we have tools like voice and Zoom and Teams, for example. They can, of course, to respect any the social distanciation. They can meet up on those tools and basically start thinking about how we can. We were talking earlier about the organization pillar in a company, and they can start thinking, okay, what we were doing before, is this person in the right department? Because sometimes I've seen also people changing from salesperson to a purchaser and or buyer, and the buyer was better, the job for the person was better, or the position was better than the previous one. And also it made the person more happy and more motivated in the work that they were doing. So basically gather virtually, for example, or gather using the proper tools, and just discuss, brainstorm, think, try changing, or even just exchanging information. I think it's really important to and also train each other. A lot of I've seen that a lot of people are not talking or discussing enough inside the same organization. So which means that in the other office there's somebody that has the information and that can really help me do my job properly. And usually what I see is when I discuss and when I analyze workshops, processes in workshops, we are gathering people from different services, and you find out that I didn't know that you were doing that. See that thing in which, okay, discuss more, gather more. Of course, you need not only meeting for just having a meeting. A meeting needs to have a purpose, needs to have an action, needs to have a to-do list. And what are the next actions? What are maybe, do we need another meeting? It can be 5 minutes, but 5 minutes can be more effective than 1 hour and a half just talking randomly.
Right. So audit your organization. That would be your advice for companies right now that have zero income, zero operations, because everything is frozen. Just sit down with your team and make the audit of this organization. Go through some case studies, go through some projects, go through some past projects maybe to see if you can improve the learning curve from them, and then review your processes, right? What would you say to somebody that is on the verge, and then we'll end up with this, what would you say to somebody that, for example, now is considering a career change, or is maybe considering something within the same industry? For example, somebody that's was laid off from his company but thinks that he's going to start a company or something like this. How do you go by starting a company for a post-COVID-19 2021 in terms of tools and in terms of the things that you need to go after, in your opinion?
Well, I would say basically, and I will adapt it with the COVID-19 situation. I would say what I said to myself 2 years ago when I created my own company. So when I resigned from my job and created my own company 2 months later, I had a know-how, a knowledge.
Okay.
So this is an important point. You need to know something or to master something in order to feel comfortable in the creation of your company.
Okay.
Of course, you need to have a market.
Okay.
You need you need to fill a gap at some point, because a lot of companies exist. So
they just exist. They
exist. They are around you, but you need to fill a gap in terms of service or in terms of product. You need to have something that's, and of course, you need to have a strategy.
Okay.
You need to say, okay, what if it doesn't work?
Absolutely.
First, this is what I always say. What if it doesn't work? Okay, I always have this backup plan, because you can have, and usually for myself, I always have the backup plan of the backup plan of the previous backup plan of the new backup plan. So it's always, you always need to manage, because otherwise you're running towards failure if something doesn't go right.
Yeah.
So and it can be from different situations, and COVID is one of them.
Yeah.
but basically what we'll do, COVID will clean a lot of unfortunately what we call
waste.
companies that,
Let's call them waste. Companies that are basically not very healthy, very poorly mismanaged, not very healthy, and they're basically causing more problems to the market than actually providing solutions.
Exactly. So so then it will be clean, and start over. Ask yourself before creating a company. Creating a company is not an easy thing.
No.
Yeah, it's not really that easy. You cannot. It's not like in the movies. You create your company 2 years after the success. Everybody cannot create a startup.
No, that's one of the problems. Is like basically people watch this Social Network or whatever movie, and they think that they did all of this in 2 hours, right? You know, I had a debate about this with a friend of mine the other day. He wanted to create a company, and I said, listen, creating a company to me is not about what you can achieve on your business or what you can work for. To me, creating a company is what can you live with.
Yep.
That's what creating a company is. And in terms of difficulties, right? Because of course you need to have the passion. Of course you need to love what you do. And of course what you touched on, the knowledge, the market, whatever it is. Of course you need to have all those things, but you need to also have a very powerful decision-making process that allows you to make the choices, right? I mean, Steve Jobs created Apple, and Apple is today the most valuable company in the world. But Steve Jobs also looked at his partner back in the days, and at least that's what being in the books, like that's the history that is said. And he didn't even recognize his own daughter at some point, and he's like, okay, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to be a parent. I want to build a company. I don't have time for this, right? And so can you go home and tell your wife, I don't have time for becoming a father? Can you go home to your girlfriend and say, I don't have time? Can you go to your own parents and say, I don't have time for this or that? So these are the decisions that people need to struggle with, and it requires a lot of self-awareness, I think, and to know yourself and what can you deal with and what you can't deal with, and basically accept those things. So
as you were saying, there are a lot of sacrifices to be made.
Yeah.
In order for your companies to succeed, especially if you have employees.
Yeah.
Because then you're not only accountable for yourself, but also for their jobs,
absolutely,
their families, bringing food on their table.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not an easy thing to do. I would wish it for anybody, because it's really I've had my company now for almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to take one's own decisions.
Yeah.
In terms of, but it comes with sacrifices.
Absolutely.
It comes with difficulties. I mean, I'm usually I'm saying always I'm my worst boss.
I cannot agree with you more.
I'm the guy that's afraid of himself, and I know that basically I can be tired, I can be sick, it can be Sunday, it can be 3 o'clock in the morning. Work is work, and basically I never stop until I finish my work. So this is not something that when you're an employee and you don't have your own company or not a manager, it's not something you care about. You say, okay, I'm going at work at 9,
and that's normal. And that's normal. That's what I keep struggling with business owners with is, guys, you cannot expect your employees to care more about your business than you. You cannot expect your employees to work more than you. You can't. Otherwise, give them equity in the company. If you want them to do that, give them equity in the company, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're not going to care about the business more than you. So that's the sacrifices that you're talking about. I mean, I could be making twice the money or 3 times the money I would be making right now if I was working in a big organization. But then again, we're touching on what you're saying, the freedom of choice, the freedom of thinking, the freedom of being able to make an impact, the choice of how you think your value is to be conveyed to the world. And basically it's a trait of character that also is it has something to deal with.
Yeah. Well, completely.
I really hope this situation is going to bring a lot of people more into self-awareness. I think what people struggle, like we're being focused on happiness a lot. I think what we should focus on right now is called fulfillment. to see, because you cannot be happy every day, but you can be fulfilled every day. You can wake up even on a difficult day and feel that what you're doing still has meaning, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the end of things. Hassan, it was great talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me, Toufic. I love what you're doing.
Thanks.
I mean, this is a great idea to exchange with different people from different sectors. It's really quite interesting, and I've learned a lot from your previous videos that I've seen. And I'm really honored to be part of.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome, and hopefully we'll talk in a year or so to be able to exchange on what actually happened. You know.
Yeah, to see if we were right or not, and to see where you're going to be at in 1 year from now, and myself as well. Thank you very much, and well, take care, and keep on zooming.
Yeah, that's in my living Zoom. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope it brought you some value. If you would like to engage, please leave a comment in the comment section. You can also click the subscribe button and activate notification to receive the updates on this channel.